My beautiful black people. Every time I tune into YouTube, I see so many channels trying to tackle the issue of why our black men and black women can't get along. No matter how many discussions, it seems to always end in discord. It seems that our community needs divine intervention to get things right. Check out this short clip from Dr. DeGruy concerning the reasons behind our community's madness from a clinical perspective.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome is an explanatory theory that really looks at multi-generational trauma. One of the things that's difficult for people is their first response is, oh my God, that happened so long ago. We're talking about people being captured, shipped, sold, beaten, raped, experimented on. And then you have to ask the question, did the trauma continue? Yes. So 300 years of trauma, no help, freed, no help, more trauma. If it's a sustained trauma, then the impact of that is also sustained. When we look at multi-generational trauma, we're looking at people who are maybe victims of natural disasters and their families and their children, and generations of folks who have experienced war. And we know that there are residual mental, emotional, traumatic impact. And what I did was I started to look at the African-American experience, starting with slavery, as a real clear, long enduring trauma. I started to see that there were clear connections between that survival behavior and contemporary living in African-American experience. I started to see common behaviors that I took for granted as, well, cultural. There's adaptive behaviors, survival behavior. Well, what are they? Let's just say 2019, you have a black mother and a white mother. The sons go to school together. They find themselves at a meeting. The black mother leans over to the white mother and says, I just wanted to mention to you that I noticed that your son is really doing quite well. And the white mother's response is, oh, thank you. She begins to go on and on about he won the science fair, his uncle's an astronaut. She's just oozing. She realizes the black mother's son is actually excelling her son. And she says, well, wait a minute. Your son's the one that's really coming along. And the black mother responds, oh my God, he's a handful, but oh, he just works my nerves. Now, when I'm working with African-American people, it doesn't matter what the audience is. It doesn't matter what class. If I were to ask, is she very proud while she's saying those denigrating things? And everybody laughs and goes, of course, there's a secret. Because everybody black knows that even though the black mother is going, oh my God, she's really proud. So now let's roll that scene back 300 years. And let's say this black mother is working in the fields and a white slave owner comes through and says, wow, that boy is really coming along. What is she gonna say? No, he's not. He's stupid. He's shiftless. He can't work because I don't want you to sell him. So I denigrate them to protect them. That is called appropriate adaptation when living in a hostile environment. The little white boy, say Timmy, he feels really comfortable and happy about what his mom just said about him. And Trey looks at his mom and wonders, why can't you be proud of me? Because he doesn't understand the secret yet. And by the time he learns the secret, he will have already been injured by it. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. PTSD is a disorder that occurs as a result of a single trauma. You don't even have to be there to actually get a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. You could just hear about something horrific happening to someone you love. So you have people who have experienced it firsthand, people who have witnessed it in their environment, right? People who are continuing to be oppressed. That exacerbates any possibility of healing. So it's not post-traumatic stress disorder, because then it becomes part of what we call your socialization process. So you begin to normalize a way of living and being, everything from what we eat to what we believe it means to be a friend. All of these things are colored by history. And if you don't understand it, you're going to fold in things that you've just assumed are normal. But post-traumatic stress disorder, exaggerated startle response, outbursts of anger, feeling of foreshortened future. There was a point where there were African-American children in different urban settings that didn't expect to live to be adults because they saw so much death that they started planning their funerals like at 13, 12, as young as 10. When you start looking at the simple biology, You start looking at the impact of stress on health. And while we look at general stress, we know finances, you have illnesses, all these different things. How about being Black? How does factoring in being Black in America impact your stress level and therefore your body's ability to operate its own immune system? Because we know it compromises the immune system. Once you understand it, then you can deal with it, because you see it's habitual. You socialize, it becomes part of your being. So one of the ways you begin to address that multi-generational trauma is to work with the people it directly impacts, to hear from them. And when you give the people the information, they can use it. I think the first order of business is beginning to have a conversation. And the other is to educate the larger society. You have to stop the assault. So this is not purely a clinical thing. This requires social justice and change. That's where part of the healing is. It's not in a clinical setting or in a pill. It's in fairness and justice and safety and equity. We got to work with some of those clinical things, some of those issues of panic and anxiety. And we also have to deal with the fact that you have a system that is set up to oppress you and to continue to injure you. Both those things have to be dealt with. And they cannot singularly by themselves affect a change. They have to be done collectively.
Shalom, my people. Thank you for tuning in to the Black and Healthy Restoring Black America channel here on YouTube, and also broadcasting on the Country Living in the City page on Facebook. I am your host, Jawanda Smith, RN Case Manager and Community Advocate. I hope you enjoyed that clip from Dr. Joy DeGruy, giving a brief insight into her book, Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. I will post a link in below the description on how you can buy her book. It's a very good book. It's not a very long read, but she summarizes many things, behaviors from slavery that are still projected in our community today. Now, some people may ask me, and that's okay, what does this have to do with the relations between Black men and women in our community? Well, because of trauma that both Black men and women have experienced over the years from slavery that are still being experienced here in America today. It's very apparent. We are constantly exposed to a negative light of our own people, always through the media, through the social injustice, through legislature. I mean, there's a racism everywhere. It's always on the attack when it comes to Black people here in America. So we're always on guard. And unfortunately, we're on guard from each other. And that makes no sense because we've been conditioned to do those things. So I have another short clip from Dr. DeGruy where she was on a panel with Black men and other Black women where they discussed the things of love and well-being. And
Familiar with something called disaster porn, where we become so absorbed in the disaster, we retell it over and over and over again. And I think we have to beware of this. I don't know what to call it, but it centers around racism, and Black harm, and to the point where we find ourselves reliving it over and over again, sometimes in films that are coming out that are showing it over and over and over again, which kind of drills down this notion of not only victimhood but of hopelessness. And I think we have to really be careful in how much we expose ourselves to that. And again, I'm not pouring any salt on artists, and especially in the film industry, where we are finally beginning to make our place in that space and to tell our stories and to show ourselves authentically. But I think we have to start telling all the stories, okay? And we have some incredible stories, as you've already been exposed to with these wonderful Black men that are here. And we need those stories. Our children need to see those stories. They need to recognize hope and triumph and brilliance and greatness and success and all of those things, which are very much an integral part of who we are as a people in terms of, again, uh, our memory of ourselves. We need to create the positive memory. And I just wanted to close by saying that, you know, I'm in the business of making memories deliberately and intentionally. When my children are growing up, I knew that certain things that I was doing with them were going to be memories. So I created those memories for them deliberately, intentional, wonderful memories that warmed them inside and that will carry them long after I'm gone. So I want to just really instill into our community, into our people, this idea of creating positive memory and looking forward to a very positive, continuous trajectory of growth.
So, my people, I would like to end this broadcast with a little food for thought. When it comes to relationships in our community, and I will also like to say this will be a testimony to what I believe. Since the beginning of time, and as long as I have been alive, and I was taught to believe that marriage was created by God for man. I also, whether you believe in God or not, if that is your belief, then you also know that He created the rules and regulations of it. So, everyone, a lot of channels on YouTube talk about marriage, constant, and many do attest to believing in God, but leave Him out of the conversation, which absolutely makes no sense to me. If you believe that God created marriage and the institution of marriage, and that He has the rules and regulations in His Bible, in His book, then why don't anyone bring that up in the conversations? it's it's kind of like, well, basically making up your own rules, because if He created it, He made the rules for it. So there's many people that spend a lifetime making money being a relationship gurus, but the ultimate idea is to be married or joined to someone, which is considered to be with matrimony, which was created by God. So as long as the conversations leave the creator out of it and his rules and regulations of it, I just, good luck with that. Because I've been in a good marriage and I've been in a bad marriage. And I know if I didn't have God in the second marriage, it would have turned out like the first one. so, so people, if you would like to get a better spiritual understanding of scripture and also understanding of marriage and the rules and regulations to marriage by God. I will also post in the description a few of the teachings from the King James Bible University and the Lost Sheep of Israel, the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel, where I got a better understanding of my own marriage and was able to deal with a very difficult time in my life through the scripture. So the institution of marriage is right there in his holy word. And so I will post that for those who are interested. And if there's any negative comments about that, I will delete them, just letting you know. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Until next time, Shalom.